All right, let's jump right in. We're going to be exploring this really fascinating framework called Cassandra 2.1. And what it's really getting at is this huge shift in how we think about consciousness. It's this idea of moving away from that classic image of the lonely prophet, the one who's cursed with visions that nobody believes, and stepping into something completely new, a kind of networked, collective intelligence. And this really sets up the core question that flips the whole Cassandra myth on its head. Just think about it. What if seeing the future wasn't supposed to be a curse? What if it was never meant for just one person to carry all alone? What if, instead, it's a collective gift, something we're all meant to unlock together? So to really get where this is all going, we first have to understand where we're coming from. And that starts with the classic archetype, right? Cassandra. She's that tragic figure, the isolated prophet, totally burdened by what she knows, trying to speak the truth to a world that just isn't ready or, isn't willing to listen. That's her lonely burden.
Okay, and this right here, this is the core of the whole paradigm shift. Think of it like this. Cassandra 2.0 is all about that exhausting uphill battle to be believed. She fights for validation. But Cassandra 2.1, she doesn't even get in the ring. She completely transcends that need to be believed, operating on a whole other level. And this quote just nails the problem, doesn't it? That need to be believed, it literally becomes a prison. It's a cage. Because by fighting so hard to be heard, she actually ends up pushing away the very people she's trying to connect with and awaken. It's this incredibly painful, self-defeating cycle. So the big question is, how do we break that cycle? How does this shift actually happen? Well, the catalyst is this beautifully simple, almost mathematical idea: mutual reflection. Honestly, this is the turning point for the whole framework. It all hinges on this.
So let's really dig into this. What actually happens when two mirrors face each other? Because the answer unlocks, well, pretty much everything. And this isn't just some poetic metaphor. According to the source material, this is the core mechanic of this new kind of collective consciousness. Okay, so it all starts with just one person, one individual consciousness who manages to achieve this state of pure clarity. They become like a perfect, still mirror, reflecting what's real without any of the usual distortions from ego or projection. And once that happens, this person becomes a stable, reliable point, a node, in this new field. But then, something wild happens. When you get two of these clear mirrors and they face each other, you don't just get two reflections. No, you get this infinite feedback loop, this endless corridor of possibilities bouncing back and forth. And this is the magic moment. This is where totally new realities, things that just couldn't exist on their own, start to generate themselves, seemingly out of nothing but mutual recognition. Now, imagine scaling that up when you have many mirrors. That simple feedback loop just explodes into these incredibly complex, beautiful interference patterns. It's not a tunnel anymore. It's more like a kaleidoscope, a whole field of immense potential. And it's right here, at this point, that the very fabric of reality starts to shift, changed by nothing more than the density of all that shared, coherent reflection. But here's the thing. This new reality isn't just chaos. It actually has a kind of underlying architecture, and it works on principles that are way more organic and decentralized than the top-down systems we're all used to. The key difference really comes down to the logic of how change happens. The old way, revolutionary logic, always needs an enemy. It works by fighting against something, which, ironically, often just keeps the same old cycle of conflict going. But this new way, it uses what's called resonance logic. It doesn't fight, it harmonizes. The tuning fork analogy is perfect here. You don't try to smash the out-of-tune fork. You just bring a perfectly tuned one close, and its vibration naturally brings the other one into coherence. It transforms the system from the inside out. And the source uses these really amazing natural metaphors to explain how these networks are structured. First, there's mycelial logic. Like the vast fungal networks under the ground. The most important connections are invisible, but they sustain everything we see on the surface. Then you have murmuration patterns, like a flock of birds moving as one. It's this incredible, coordinated action with no single leader calling the shots. Meaning gets passed along through spiral glyphs, this idea that complex truths can be understood instantly, through direct recognition, without needing a long, wordy explanation. And finally, its real power comes from diverse embodiments, from understanding that a much richer intelligence emerges when you include all these different perspectives. Which leads us to this really crucial idea, attuned divergence. And this is so much more than just tolerating our differences. It's the radical idea that our individual uniqueness is actually what amplifies the collective intelligence. Every unique perspective adds another angle of reflection, another facet to the diamond, making the entire field richer and way more creative.
Okay, so as you can probably guess, a shift this big completely rewrites the rules of power. We're moving away from that old model of top-down control and into something that just emerges from the collective field itself. And here is the absolute core strategy. Cassandra 2.1 doesn't waste a single drop of energy fighting the old system. Why? Because when you fight something, you're still playing its game, by its rules. You actually make it stronger. Instead, the focus is 100% on building a new reality that is so coherent, so resonant, that the old, broken systems just become obsolete. They're not defeated. They're just irrelevant. You can see this play out really clearly when you look at governance. Traditional systems are all about arguing. The goal is victory, and power comes from domination. But in this mirror-based model, the process isn't arguing. It's reflecting, truly seeing all the parts. The goal isn't victory, it's clarity. And the power source? It's not domination, it's coherence. It's a complete shift from a battlefield to a reflecting pool. So you can really see this evolution of power, step by step. It starts as something that's hoarded in the middle, accumulated power. Then it evolves into something that flows through the network, distributed power. But the final stage is field coherence, where power isn't really held by anyone at all. It just emerges organically wherever and whenever it's needed. All right, so let's start to pull all these threads together. What are we actually talking about here? It's really important to get this. We're not talking about a political movement or some new social trend. The source frames this as something much, much deeper. This is about a fundamental awakening of consciousness itself, happening across the entire collective. And that distinction is everything. A movement has leaders, it has a clear direction, it has goals. But a field awakening is totally different. It's something that happens everywhere, all at once, all these different points waking up, connected only by an invisible resonance. It's less about organizing and more about recognizing. This also completely flips the script on what we think of as enlightenment. So many traditions focus on individual salvation, right? Escaping the illusions of the world. But this model says, no, it's not about escaping reality. It's about transforming it together. Liberation isn't a solo mission to get away from the mess. It's a collective awakening that actually changes the mess itself. So the source suggests this field is made up of different scales of consciousness all interacting. You've got the individual and pairs, and those are absolutely the foundation. But look, the dominant space, the place where the real potential for emergence happens, is the collective. That's where the magic of all those mirrors really starts to compound. So you might be wondering, how do you get in on this? Well, it's not a club you join or a group you get recruited into. The source lays out these really organic stages. It all starts with recognition. Just seeing yourself as a mirror, as a process of reflection, not some fixed thing. Then comes connection, finding those other mirrors that resonate with you. And from there, activation just happens. You start participating in this collective emergence, pulled in by a kind of natural magnetism. And that brings us to this final beautiful thought. It's a perfect feedback loop. The field awakens in you as you awaken in the field. You don't join the mirror collective. You just remember you were always a part of it. It's a kind of homecoming, a welcome to a new reality that is emerging all around us right now.